It is 10 a.m. here in Central Illinois, and it is time to get started. Good morning, good afternoon. Glad to be with you. And this spotlight session is on paraphrasing with MAXQDA. My name is Dr. Michael Gizzi. I'm a certified trainer for MAXQDA, and I'm a professor at Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois, where it is a rainy day today. What we're going to do today is I'm going to introduce kind of the idea of paraphrasing and compare it with other writing tools. And then we're going to just jump right into MAXQDA. I'm going to walk you through it in the next half hour. Ask questions in the Q&A or the chat. I'm not worried about it, but preferably the Q&A tab. And we will get started. Excuse me. Lots of allergies. Why paraphrasing? Paraphrasing is a tool that sometimes confuses people because you get MAXQDA thinking you're going to be coding data. And okay, paraphrasing. What it is it's a tool that lets you write brief 255 character summaries of segments of text without coding. I should say summaries of segments of documents. It can be an image, it can be audio, it can be video. But we're going to talk about it in the context of text today, for the most part. I will show some images. Why would you want to paraphrase? And paraphrasing is taking something that someone else has written and putting it in your own words. It's an interpretation of another document. Well, you may want to paraphrase because you want to distill a document, put it in your own words, a way of simply summarizing the content when you don't need to code. You want to summarize literature to assist in writing a literature review. There's an entire spotlight session on literature reviews, so you can check it out in the replay. You want to explore your data, and so you're not certain yet what code you're going to be using or creating, and it's a way to explore, sort of to go in depth into your documents before you're building a code system. I want you to think of MAXQDA as a writing toolbox with 4 primary tools that are used for writing. We have memos, coding comments, paraphrases, and summary tables. A memo is something which you use to write important analytical thoughts, to take notes, to raise questions. It might be attached to a segment of text. It might be attached to a code or to a document, or it might just be a free memo. Memos they can be almost unlimited in length. They are fully searchable and they're fully formattable. Coding comments is a writing tool that you use to annotate a specific coded segment. It's tied just to one segment that you've coded. It is a way to identify key segments. I use it religiously. You can view them in retrieved segments and in the sidebar. And in MAXQDA 2022, coding comments are searchable with Word Explorer. The nice thing with the coding comments is they're available anytime you have the a coded segment. Paraphrases are summaries of text or images that don't require coding. As I said, they're useful for lit reviews, identifying concepts for inductive code building. And in MAXQDA 2022, like coding comments, they are actually searchable. And that's a big, big change. We never used to be able to search for paraphrases or coding comments. But this is a session on paraphrases. I do need to talk about one other form of, in a sense, paraphrasing words. Paraphrases are done before coding. Summary tables are an analysis tool that let you take coded segments and rewrite those in your own words and then view them in tables. Okay. It's important to be able to distinguish between paraphrase text and summaries created by a summary grid and table. They both involve the same process, taking a segment of information and putting it into your own words. But a paraphrased text is not tied to a code. It's tied to a part of the document. It's a simple form of summarizing, and it's limited in its length. The length is the 255 characters. A document summary using summary grid is only possible after you've coded some data. And it lets you summarize, synthesize, and refine coded segments and then view them in a table format. So think about it like this. We paraphrase before we code, if we choose to paraphrase. We don't have to. We code and we add code comments to segments of information that are tied to. So if this is eligibility, this particular segment has this comment that goes with it. Document summaries of coded segments come afterwards. And we write memos throughout the entire process. There's no limitations. So think about it this way. Okay. Hopefully that'll help. It's one of the major things I find in training people and in doing webinars is people don't understand the difference between these concepts. So paraphrasing has different uses. One of the major uses for me of paraphrasing is to be able to summarize the main point in an article. So I've got articles that I need in a lit review. I take those, and assuming I have that information digitally, I bring that information, say the PDF, into MAXQDA. I use the paraphrasing tool to summarize main points. I can use the paraphrase matrix to view all of the paraphrase segments, and then I can copy them into a memo or out of MAXQDA and into a Word document as I work on my literature review. And remember, MAXQDA also supports bibliographic reference software. So you can actually sort of integrate all that together. We're not going into that today, but you certainly can. So this is one of the views, and I'm going to show you examples of this. I'll show you examples of both today. Paraphrasing for code development, if you're inductively developing codes from exploring your data, paraphrasing lets you, it provides you with the tool you need to be able to easily summarize key points in that data. It's a way to explore. And then the categorize paraphrases tool lets you view all of those segments together, organize them perhaps, move them around if you need to, and then create codes from them. It's similar in many ways to the smart coding tool, which is literally probably my favorite tool in MAXQDA for purposes of coding data. So hopefully those distinctions there help. Key point before we jump into, I close PowerPoint and we jump into MAXQDA, paraphrasing shouldn't be thought of as a substitute for coding. It's got very specific uses and limitations. You can only search paraphrases if you have MAXQDA 2022, and you can only search using the Word Explorer. You can't search them using the text search and autocode function, or the old lexical search. Paraphrases are limited in length to 255 characters. They're kind of like a tweet today. There are ways around that, because you could take two segments. You could break one segment into two paragraphs, and then that would give you double that length. But they're limited in length, and you can't use them in most, and you can't see them in most analysis tools involving text. Whereas when you're using retrieve segments in a variety of tools, you can almost always see coded comments. So, all right, how do we paraphrase? First off, and then I'll close this. This will be my last slide. You open a project and you go to the analysis tab, and you'll see on the right an icon for paraphrase. So let's not going to close this because I'm going to show you one thing at the end in here, but I'll make it go away. So I am in MAXQDA. I'm in a project already. I go to Analysis. I go to Analysis, and here I have Paraphrase. If I click on that, it automatically enters me into paraphrase mode. Click on it again, I'm not in paraphrase mode, but there's a little arrow here, and it also lets me paraphrase document, that's that icon, categorize paraphrases, and paraphrase matrix, and print documents with paraphrases. It sort of looks like a document printed with track changes in a Microsoft Word file. So hopefully we'll go through all of these today. So I have a document here, and it's really about literature. It's about leadership. So I have a document here that actually has paraphrases in it already, but I'm gonna teach you how to paraphrase. You'll notice here I'll make this a little bit bigger, and let me extend this full size, full screen. There we go. Sorry, should have done that beforehand. If you'll notice here, the left sidebar has some codes already. The right sidebar, I right-click it. It's set to show memos and paraphrases. I cannot view comments and paraphrases at the same time. It's one or the two. That's a strange limitation, but it exists. So I've been reading this article, and I want to be able to paraphrase it. Well, how do I do it? Well, the first thing I do is I turn on paraphrase mode, click on the icon. You'll notice that my text that has been paraphrased is in green. In text with and so I'm reading this, and I say, all right, I want to paraphrase these 5 points. And you'll notice 3 of them are already done. I select the text, release my mouse or trackpad, and I get this, the paraphrase toolbar. Power, can't seem to spell today, fills a vacuum. Click OK. Now notice I have a paraphrase segment. You can see it. I can even adjust what is in that paraphrase segment if I wanted to. And I now have a paraphrase here. You'll notice here, so then I'll do this again, repeat it for you. Power is always personal. There's no such thing as class power, elite power, or group power, which is a debatable piece of information. Again, I'm in paraphrase mode, so and I click OK. And it's now paraphrased. I enter text. You'll notice this, it didn't do anything there because I was covering existing paraphrases. If I select that, I can't paraphrase within a paraphrase. So I've added those here. Let me show you in a PDF. Same document. This is definitely a webinar document, right? So here's our power, right? This document I can select like this. And it might help if I turned on paraphrasing. I've already done that one, apparently. Select the text that I want. This is just a dummy paraphrase. Now say I don't like that because I don't really want a dummy paraphrase. Double click the paraphrase, it opens it up, and then I'll put in the real one. Power comes from ideas and philosophy. I didn't spell it right. I don't care. So now I have paraphrased in a PDF that is text readable. What if I wanted to, and you'll notice anything I click and release, it will do that. What if I just want to do this? Highlight something more than a text segment, like here where it's sort of basically an image in a sense. I can do that here. The person. A better example of that will come from a project where I actually have PowerPoints here. And you can see here, so like this one, I'm going to delete that, copy it and delete it. If I want to paraphrase a graphic, I'll make this graphic bigger. Sorry. I can highlight the text of an image. And again, got to turn paraphrasing on. And I can paraphrase like that. So hopefully that makes sense as a way. I want to go back to the other project for this. So that's how you paraphrase. So you can paraphrase part of an image. You can paraphrase a text, PDF. If you're using the multimedia view, or you select a part of a segment with paraphrasing on, and you can paraphrase that. All right, so I've done my paraphrases. Let's go back to the much more readable document. How do I view paraphrases? Well, the first way of viewing them is by using the document browser like this. And you'll notice as long as paraphrases, I'll make sure memos are on as well. As long as paraphrases are on, I can see them. They're not on, so I go right click, it paraphrases. If I don't have the sidebar, just click the sidebar. You'll notice there's a memo here and then a series of paraphrases. That's one way. You can view the sidebar. There's another way, and that's to go to the code system, which is right here. And you'll notice because there are paraphrases in this project, there are 42. There is something called paraphrase segments. Just like coded segments, if you saw a coded segment on charismatic leadership and double-clicked it, it would bring up the retrieved segments, right? Well, double-click paraphrase segments, and now you have 42 paraphrase segments from 3 documents and 1 document group. And you can click on each of those, see the segment, and you can see what you paraphrased. And you can make this larger so you can read this. So this is one way of seeing what you've done. You'll notice you have the ability here to auto code segments if you want. You also have the ability to activate documents. So let's say I only want to look at this document. Actually, no, I'm going to use this one, Wellsprings of Leadership. There's just 3 there. Activate that document, go to paraphrase segments. I'm getting 42 paraphrase segments. Select filter it here. Now I'm getting the paraphrases that are in that document. So I can narrow it down. And so if I wanted to code them, there's lots of ways of sort of narrowing that down. So that's one way of viewing paraphrases. Sidebar, paraphrase segments. We can also activate documents with paraphrasing. So let's go back and deactivate everything. It's a very short, small project here, right? Right-click paraphrase segments, activate documents with paraphrases. Now you'll notice that it got 3 of the documents that have paraphrases. They're activated. And then, of course, I could, do anything I want with that. All right. Until November, when MAXQDA 2022 came out, there was no ability in MAXQDA to search your paraphrases. That all changed with the creation of the Word Explorer, because the lexical or text search lets you search documents or memos. Word Explorer is actually if Smart Coding Tool is my favorite tool for coding data, I have to say this is a close second, because I use this in a lot of auto coding situations, and it's an amazing analysis tool. I'm going to take a phrase, general theory, and I know it's right here because it says of political leadership. And I click it, and it'll let me choose if I want activated documents or not, but it doesn't matter. Click explore. The word general theory, there are 5 hits in one document. And notice here, 1 paraphrase. I now have access to that paraphrase right there. So it's a very useful tool to get you just to a paraphrase. So I'll do it again. I'll take something that's going to give me a lot more, because this is all about leadership. I have 647 hits. I have 24 paraphrases that include the word leadership. I can read through them easily. So Gardner says, don't confuse leadership, right to there. Or I can take one of the leading scholars, Burns, and I'll get 2 paraphrases that use Burns in it. So this is a big enhancement to MAXQDA 2022. And the tool goes far beyond that, but you can also search code comments as well, okay? So that's a huge, huge jump up. Okay. All right, so say I was in that process of wanting to be able to create a literature review. Well, what would I do with that? I'm going to temporarily skip over categorize, and I'm going to go to the tool Paraphrase Matrix. 7 minutes. I think we can do this. Paraphrase Matrix lets me insert documents. It's like any other tool where I drag a document in. I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take Wellspring. They're 2 different documents. This is another version of the same one, so I'm going to skip it. And when I click OK, I get something here. Let me make this text bigger. I now have a matrix. Now, it looks a little bit challenging or funky because it shows me each of the location. So I could say, all right, click on that, and it brings me right to it, to that segment. You'll notice here the paraphrase matrix shrunk, so I would click on it again. If I don't want to see that and just want this text, I can simply copy that text, paste it into a memo, or I could use the export tool. I got a lot of opportunities here of things I could do with it. And use this as a way of viewing different documents, the paraphrases in them, but it's also a way to get the paraphrases out of MAXQDA. And of course, I can export to Word or Excel. And I think it'll also let me do, or a website. But this is a powerful tool. So if you're in the process of creating a literature review, it's pretty awesome. Now, here's a hint. Okay, and I didn't do this in this. I realized that I forgot to do this, but so this one right here, Burns says leadership is at least understood. I'm going to go to that right here. This document doesn't provide pages, so that's not particularly helpful. Wait a second. If I do a paraphrase, let's say that this was on, let's say this was on page 2 of a document. I could edit the paraphrase, particularly if you're working with PDFs, this is awesome, and put something like page 2 into the paraphrase, so that when I go to the matrix, you'll notice it automatically updated it. I can see that this reference here is on page 2. And then what I do is if I'm working in this document here, so this is page 327. Any paraphrases on page 327, the first one, I would put page 327. I wouldn't do it on anything else on that page until I got one to page 328. And then at that point, I will know exactly what page I'm in my document. So it's just a little hint. I just literally remembered it. I should have included it in the handout. But it's a powerful way of easily finding your paraphrases. I can go here to the matrix again. And so I can see this. Turn it on or off. I can always refresh it, the matrix, and then add a different document. Okay, I will close that. So what if I want to use paraphrases to explore data for coding? I'm going to go back to that other project, my Netflix literature review project. It's an old one. It's not really complete. If I go to paraphrase, categorize paraphrases, I'm now in a tool, and it does look a lot like Smart Coding Tool. This is the segment. This is the paraphrase. These are the codes in the system right now. I can reorganize by dragging and moving paraphrases if I wanted to put them into a different order, if they were to kind of put them related to one another. But I can also, so say I think, I want to become a low-cost provider by achieving cost-based competitive advantage. Do I have a code for competitive advantage? I do. It's right here. If I want to code that paraphrased segment, I can click, drag, and go link to the code. And now this segment includes a code. See it right here. It includes a code. What if I don't have a code and I want to create a code? So I click on the cell, I right click. I'm sorry, can't right click here or here. I can right click here, or I can right click here. Does the exact same thing. Create and assign a new code. And write out your code memo so you know why you're coding it. Give it a color if you want. Click OK. And now I have sustainability, which showed up down here. And if I wanted to, I could move this into another category if I want. So I can organize codes. So I'm categorizing and organizing codes this way. You'll notice here, some of these were from graphics, right? Those graphics show up visually as images. I can code them. Oh, and of course, I can add multiple codes. So that's sustainability, competitive advantage. You can see I can have both there. This is a powerful tool if you are building a coding system. So these components of strategy, many of them sort of came out of, you see, when I'm in this tool, by the way, I can't do anything else. So I'm going to close this. I took this graphic, this was a long time ago when I did this, and I paraphrased it, and then I created codes using categorize paraphrase tool to access that. So paraphrase document, categorize, paraphrase matrix. This leaves us with just one more tool. 1031, that'll be perfect. That'll give us lots of time for questions. Printing documents with paraphrases. So let's go back to the other one. I go to paraphrase, print documents with paraphrases. It's going to look like this. I was going to show you that on a PowerPoint, but I don't really need to. It can print, it will show you your document, it will break it up and show you the paraphrases on the right side. You can set the column width. Maybe even smaller, maybe 25%. Highlight the paraphrase segments or turn it off. I like to highlight it. Can control the margins, and I can print to a printer or to a PDF. Make that a little bit bigger. So there you go. You can see this. So you can see all of your paraphrases. You can export that to Word. I just realized if you export this to Word and then bring that back in as a new document with MAXQDA 2022, I suspect these would all come in as memos. I'd have to play with that and try it. And so those are our paraphrasing tools. It's 10:32 my time. We have time for questions. I think yeah, that's it. Wow, knocked it out. Can use the paraphrase matrix to compare document sets or only individual documents? I don't think so. Let's try it. When I don't know, I took literature. Yeah, documents. These are document groups. I don't have any sets in this one. It's not accepting that one. Maybe it's because this doesn't have any. Oh, that's not in a document group. Duh. So what happens here if we do this? I don't. Yeah, it'll let me do groups. So there are 4 groups, and it's got all the paraphrases from them. And so literature group 3, and set 1. Let's try it this way. I don't know if it'll let me do sets and that, but so group 3 and yep. So there you go. What's the difference between using paraphrases? So I answered that one. Cool, thanks. What's the difference between using paraphrases, selecting a section of text, and selecting insert memo. This is what I talked about in the beginning, and if you came in late, you might want to go back to the replay, but or look at the handout. But a memo is a different sort of tool. It's not useful for the process of creating literature review or for the process of using it to develop coded segments. There are values to memos. They're huge. They're incredibly important. But this is a very focused tool. I'm sorry if I don't want to go long in that until I get through the rest of this. Paraphrases in QTT. The questions, theories. Did I put any in here? Yeah, I did a demo literally an hour ago. I wanted to see, could I do them as segments? So I'll start from scratch with that. Let's just take one that has a smaller number. Activate that document. Wellspring of literature. There's a lot of paraphrases there. If I wanted to view my paraphrase segments here, these are all, and then just that activated document. So it's still 43 of them. It's one of the downsides of this. And I send this to a QTT, what it'll do is it will take all of those segments. Actually, that's not a bad amount. And it will show me in the QTT the text and the paraphrase there. So it's kind of useful. I think it's a potential tool. QTT is still evolving, and it is really becoming a really useful tool, particularly in the latest release of MAXQDA. I used it pretty extensively in the research that my colleague Richard and I described yesterday. So yeah, it's a way of doing it. Oh, but let me show you another thing. Let's try this. So I have a QTT. I don't think I have a way of dragging it in like a segment. Now, you see, it doesn't provide, because it's not coded, I can't bring it in here in the same way. Whereas if I had a coded segment in a document, I could take that and drag that in. Codes, themes. Why is it not letting me drag a coded segment? Here we go. Whereas I can add that in. But you'll notice if the segment gets coded, the paraphrase, it comes with it. So there you go. What else? Can MAXQDA analyze semi-structured interviews in other languages? If MAXQDA supports that language, yeah, almost all the tools are all available. And I believe there's a reply to this already. Yep, as long as they're structured, you can, yep. Do we have any other questions? Is it able to create codes without any paraphrases? Absolutely. You do not need to paraphrase. There are many projects where I don't paraphrase. There are many projects where I think they're very useful. So yesterday, my colleague and I presented research about a business strategy project. We did not feel the need to paraphrase because we already knew what we were dealing with in that document, and we proceeded right to coding. Yeah, you create codes any way you want. with, you know, in the coding system, or by, you know, even though we have paraphrases here, I could, oh, I'm in paraphrase mode. Remember, you got to turn it off. And if it's green, you know, I could take that and, you know, it's all right. I'm going to in vivo code that. Okay. If I'm in the paraphrase mode, I can't. But it shows me I've got the blue means this is a coded segment, and that this is a paraphrase segment. Okay, I think I've answered all those. What about in the chat? Anything here? No, I think that was there done twice. Any other questions? It's not a hard tool, but it's well worth your time. And I strongly, for the person who had the question about the memos, I really do think it's worthwhile to you know, really spend some time thinking about memos, paraphrases, coding comments, summary tables. While it's based on MAXQDA 2020, you might go to the YouTube channel and find the webinar that I offered on memos, comments, and paraphrases. And that would help explain that in a great deal. Last call on questions. Going once. Going twice. And if there are no other, and I think we're going to end based on that. And I'm giving another webinar on focus groups in about 20 minutes. So since we are done, oops, I think we're going to just call this one. But there are lots of webinars on paraphrasing and memos and comments on the YouTube channel, and again, mostly by me. But check this out, and you always have this recording. I hope this was helpful. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful conclusion to MAXDAYS. It's over too quickly. So, thank you.